Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Welcome back for part 2 of pruning up my avatar grove. In part 1 of this series, I pruned up all the trees that surround the main tree in the forest. My intent is to style the main tree in this forest to have a cathedral style top to it. We'll look at some reference photos now to give me some styling ideas. Today I'll be styling the top of the main tree here in the bonsai zone. Today I'll be working towards that cathedral type style in the main tree. Last weekend I went to the Toronto Bonsai Society's annual spring show and sale, and this Saturday I'm going to the Toronto Cactus and Succulent Society's show and sale, and that's at Allen Gardens, so I'll be going this Saturday. I'll put a link to the Toronto Cactus and Succulent Society's webpage in the description below. I'm going to start the styling of the main tree now, and one thing I noticed in those reference photos of the cathedral type top is that all the branches go absolutely vertical, so they curve out from the trunk and then shoot skyward. Also, the foliage is very light on the top of the tree. They're not dense and lush like it is now, so I've got a lot of thinning to do. I'm going to try and achieve that vertical branch style by pruning alone, so I'll have to pick shoots that are growing vertical as the main leader of all these branches that surround the central trunk. And I'll have a lot of thinning to do. It's very lush right now. So I'll take it one branch at a time and see how it goes. I'll have to decide which branches are the ones that I want to go vertical. It'll probably be the ones that kind of come out from the tree at about this level and then come up, and these lower branches will almost remain as they are. I'm going to start by working up in the apex of the tree, and I've always had this branch that comes out here, and it's directly above this branch, and then it kind of goes sideways, and that just formed that way, but it doesn't look very nice crossing the main trunk there. So I think there's enough, branch density back here that I can just remove that branch entirely. So I'll do that. Okay, so here I go. I thought about leaving, some dead wood, maybe just pruning it off and stripping the bark off, but I don't like the way it crosses the trunk. It just, if it was, a nice side branch, sure, I would do that, but I just don't like the branch at all. So it's going to come off right at the base here. So here I go. Like that. I've been planting all these cuttings, just sticking them in soil and keeping them moist, and I'll see how they grow. I also have, just below that branch I pruned off, I have another one coming straight out front that also kind of goes off to the one side. But if I remove that, I would just have too sparse a top on the tree, but maybe that would be a good thing if I'm trying to grow this cathedral type tree. So I've got to think about possibly removing that, or at least creating dead wood out of it. So I'm going to look at the tree from the front and kind of try and reach a decision. It took a lot of thought, but I've made my decision. I'm going to remove part of that branch that's coming off to the left-hand side, and I'll keep the more vertical one. The one that comes off to the left-hand side is kind of hiding the branches behind it, so that's one of the reasons I want to get rid of it. And also, being more vertical, it doesn't give that appearance of coming off at a funny angle off the trunk. I'll show you a close-up of it. This is the part of the branch I want to keep, which is more vertical. And then I want to get rid of this section of it, or, maybe cut it off short and create dead wood. That'll allow, a view of this branch that's behind it here, which will be, more of that cathedral type crown. So I think the first thing I'll do is I'll cut the branch off shorter and strip the bark off and leave it deadwood. Okay, here I go. So I'll keep part of it. I'm going to prune it off here and here, and I'll take that top part off. Like that. So this part of the branch is now dead, so I'll strip the bark off and just leave the bare wood. I'll use my handy little dental instrument. It has a sharp hook on the end of it, so you can just kind of peel the bark off. You can see the green bark there, and below it is the wood. A lot of this you can just remove your fingernails too. There we go. There, so that's looking good. My next operation will be to reduce the crown down. It's getting quite long on top, and there's a lot of new shoots coming up from the base of the apex here that I can kind of replace the top with. So I'm going to look for areas where I can reduce the height of the crown here. And I think right here is a good one. So I'm taking that off. This crown I can reduce back quite a bit. There's a branch coming out the bottom here. Clearing out some of this congestion, like branches growing in towards the center I'm removing. Some of the small shoots that are just cluttering up the branches I'm also removing. There's one growing from the inside of a curve here I'm going to get rid of. Don't like that one much. That was a fairly major branch. So there's a few really light, delicate branches around here, and then the main part of it is quite heavy and coarse. So I can remove that woody part and replace it with these finer ones. I think I'll go right here for now. That's gone. So you can see the finer ones I'm kind of replacing that branch with. I'll just prune a few of these higher ones off here also. Okay, that's looking quite good, the height. And you can see it's much more open now, which I like. It looks more like an old growth tree. Next, I'll try and select some of the branches that'll go absolutely vertical for my cathedral type top. So I think like this branch here is a good choice. It kind of rises up to the top of the canopy. So what I'll have to do is prune off the main leader that goes on an angle and try and get a new leader that's going right vertical. Here's a side view of that branch, so it's right here. So I'm looking for vertical parts. There's not a lot that's going right vertical. And part of it's to do with the foliage in the upper canopy. This kind of is over top of the branch below, so you know they reach outwards for the light. So I think if I prune some of the foliage back up top here, a little shorter, there's room now for this branch to go vertical. And I'm going to try and do it with pruning. I don't want to use any wire on this tree. I'm, trying to see how far you can develop a tree with clip and grow is what I'm doing. So I've got a vertical leader here. I'm just pruning off all the ones that aren't vertical, shorter. And I'll be pinching the tips also. When you scissor cut these tips, they do turn brown, but at this point in time, it's not really important. I don't intend on showing this tree for, at least another year, so any brown tips will be long gone by then. Okay, so I have my vertical leader here, and all the foliage around it has to be very sparse. So I'll prune it back as far as I can safely prune it, pinching and pruning. These will be more kind of horizontal branches coming off the main leader. So in essence, like I said before, it's almost like a mini tree growing beside the main trunk here. So you've got to get that tree-like structure in it. I don't want too many apexes here. I want one apex to kind of dominate and take over. Now I'll get these branches pruned down, or pruned back, and then we'll do some pinching at the tips. Pinching usually leaves less browning at the tips. Instead of cutting halfway through the scale, the leaf scale, you're pulling off a section so it doesn't brown near as much. And now some of these lower branches I'll pinch off also, just shorten them. So this tree hasn't put out its new growth yet this spring, so all this growth is from last year, and it's just, greened up in the last few weeks, so it's due to grow any time. So it's a good time to prune this tree before it gets its flush of new growth in. The tree's full of energy right now. Now there's a few branches growing in towards the center here that I want to remove. I'm just going to keep my vertical leader. I don't want these. And again, I want all these branches to be fairly sparse. This tree's got to look giant, and the tighter I get this foliage, the bigger the tree will look. Start looking less like a hedge and more like a mature tree. So that branch is pretty compact now. It's going to look quite nice, I think. And I have my vertical leader here. Not there. My vertical, where is that coming from? That's way back there. That is not my vertical leader. This is my vertical leader here. That one is coming from back here, which needs to be pruned back. Missed that one. So looking from above, you still want that, tree branch structure. Everything fanning out from the main central leader here to look like a miniature tree. That branch is finished. So here's that branch now from the front. You can see it right here. So that's one of my vertical cathedral tops. In development anyway. So I'm going to do all the surrounding branches around the apex like that. So I'll work away at that, and then we'll come back and see what the tree looks like. I've been working away for about an hour now, and you can see that the upper structure is getting much more open. You can see more of the trunk line and the branches that form that crown. It's looking quite ancient in here. I'm really pleased with the trunk, the bark texture and just the general look of the tree. And it is getting to be quite an old tree. I've been training this tree for over 20 years now. Pruning back this main tree is giving the trees around it lots more light and room to grow. I'm thinning the apex now, thinning out some of these heavy sections to equalize the balance all the way around the crown of the tree. I've got the main tree all pruned up now. Let's go in and have a look at it. It certainly looks a lot lighter in the canopy. You can see the start of the cathedral type structure. I'll come down low, look up at the tree. So that's kind of the style I'm shooting for anyway. coming along. I'll show you it around the back. You can see all the little trees have room now. They're not all crowded into the main tree anymore. Yeah, so each branch kind of reaches up to the sky vertically, or as much as I can get it, and I'll let those vertical shoots thicken and grow, and yeah, and then eventually I'll probably create dead tops to those branches and keep kind of living branches, horizontal branches coming off of it. But the upper spire of the cathedral top will probably be dead. I think that'll give a nice look to the tree. So I've got lots of cleanup to do on the moss now. A lot of pruning there. I see a clump of moss has come off there. I don't know where that came from, up here I think. I've got to clear the moss away from the base of the trees. Especially the main tree, it's getting quite thick. You can't see the roots anymore. So I'll do that next. I'll start cleaning up the landscape. A lot of clippings here to pick off. We'll get it done. I like doing this. I always look at the landscape while I'm picking up all the clippings. Gives you a good look at it all. Good excuse to look at your trees. A lot of people ask me, do I ever just go outside and stare at my trees on the bench? And yeah, I do. It's kind of nice. Early in the morning you come out and you just look at the trees and see how they're doing, and yeah, it's just feels good. Kind of relaxing. It's getting warmer here now, and the mosquitoes are just starting to come out. Not very many yet, but I imagine in another week or so they'll be out here bugging me all the time. Oh well. So that shade moss is really spreading in this planting. You can see it coming all over the hill here. So I'll definitely have to prune all the moss back in this planting and get it looking good again. Pick away at some of this moss near the roots here. It looks nice, but it'll get quite thick over the summer, so I've got to prune it back now. You got to prune for the future. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this cactus and succulent show. I think it's going to be amazing. I gave a little preview in one of the videos. I toured one of the greenhouses in Toronto, and I saw a few of the trees that might possibly be in this show. Some of the jades and quiver trees, and so hopefully I can get a cutting of a quiver tree and start my very own. That would be very exciting if I can do that. A lot easier than growing them from seed, I think. But you can order seeds online. Not impossible. A lot of people do grow succulents from seeds. Guess they germinate easily. Yeah, so it should be a good show. And I got permission to video it, so that'll be exciting. You guys can all see what a succulent and cactus show looks like. I know Lynn from Desert Plants of Avalon will like the video. I'll have to send her a link to it. She would like it. I've almost got the surface of the moss all cleaned up. So next, I can come in and give it a prune. And I better start that because the light's fading fast. For pruning moss, I like to come in with these curved surgical scissors, and it allows you to get nice flush cuts. I'm going to start by clearing all the moss away from the lip of the pot. I like to see the entire lip of the pot on a bonsai planting or a forest. So I always prune it back like this. It just makes it look neat and tidy and gives a finished look to the planting. These curved scissors also help you get around the curve of the pot. There's my new little cedar tree. You can hardly see this little seedling now, but I probably want to grow it, you know, about this high. Kind of create that triangle silhouette. I also want this to look like a hill or the side of a mountain, so I can't let it get too thick up front here. I pruned the sedum here once this year, that's why it looks fairly good. But I could give it another trim just to shape it more like a bush. Or a little clump of scrub pines or something, or whatever your imagination thinks it should be. This pruning will make this little clump of sedum very dense. I'm trimming the perimeters too to keep them kind of compact so they don't spread too much. And again, pruning them away from the lip of the pot here. So I've got to come in and prune the moss away and the sedum. That's looking good. You can kind of press the edge down like that so it doesn't look like a lip there. It's looking much better. I'm going to make kind of a bush in here, I think. This kind of moss is really good for making bushes. Alright, I'll shape some bushes in here. I'm going to make this one bush. And maybe another one over here, or a couple. They really look like ferns, miniature ferns, this moss. So there's the bush kind of roughed in. And it'll grow over the years and get a little higher. I can prune it to any shape I want. Pulling some moss out here. I've got to push that back down. And then I'll prune some bushes here too. Just separate this big lump into a couple and see how it looks. Oh, we got a train coming by. All kinds of action tonight. Trains, lawnmowers. Just need ambulances now. So again, these curved scissors are really good for shaping these moss bushes. I get these at the surplus store. They're just sort of medical surplus, I guess. They're about $2 each, and I sharpen them and they work well. When you get them from the store, they're not very sharp, so you have to go in and I get a little file and then some sandpaper. Do a really nice job of getting them razor sharp. So I've got one bush there, one here, and one over here. There's a rock in here that I've uncovered. Didn't know it was there. If you want to keep your moss short, you've got to keep up with it. It's if you let it grow too long and then you have to prune it back, you prune back to the brown stuff. Whereas if you keep at it, just do a light pruning each time, it stays green and you keep it nice and short, just like mowing your lawn, I guess. Because you can only take so much moss off at a time before it goes brown, and so it's nice to keep it green looking and just kind of regularly come in and do some pruning. It's really thick around the base of this tree, the moss. I better kind of peel that off. Yeah, so lots of fun doing this. I really enjoy it. So the landscape's progressing well so far. I may not get time to finish it tonight. As I said, it's getting quite late and it will be dark soon. That's all the work I'll be doing on the Avatar Grove today. I'll fly you in so you can have a look at all the details of the forest. I'm really looking forward to going to my first Cactus and Succulent show in Toronto on Saturday. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me today in the Bonsai Zone.